Before we begin, I just want to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territories of the First Nations and Native American peoples. Here where I am in Vancouver, those peoples are the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Stolo nations. But I know where many of you are, you're on the land of other nations. Always, but especially during this difficult time, let us remember our connection to our friends in these nations and pray for the day in which we might be with them in right relationship. Welcome. Welcome to Living Interfaith. Know that the whole of you is welcome. You're not asked to leave who you are in your own houses. Please bring who you are in with you. But what you are asked to remember is that everyone around you has brought who they are in with them as well. And all of goodwill are welcome. When you're ready, Bruce and Cheryl.
Come, wherever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living, but is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come, wherever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come, whoever you are, broken your vows 1,000 times over. Broken your vows 1,000 times. Come, yet again, come.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I have just a few announcements. The first one is later today at about 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. The Baha'i community is going to be having an annual Nowruz celebration, and it's open to all. Nowruz is the name for the Persian New Year, and it's celebrated by Baha'is and several Muslim communities around the world. And this will be open to everybody. So if folks would like to join, I'll just put the chat in the link, and I'll just write what it is. Nowruz celebration, and that'll be tonight at 7 o'clock. So there's that if you're interested. Also next Saturday, March 27th at 10:30, so not at 10, but at 10:30 Pacific Standard Time, the Living Interfaith Church in the Seattle area is going to meet to celebrate Easter. So if you're interested, let me know, and when they get the Zoom link to me, I will be happy to send it to you. The next day, Sunday, March 28th, probably from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we're going to have our annual community Passover Seder. I know many of you have been before. It's always so much fun. I actually didn't think we were going to do it this year because this year Passover and Easter come almost at the same time. And we were going to do Easter instead. But happily, we had some Jewish friends who said, oh, we always love the Seder so much. We were hoping we could do it with everyone. So we will be doing that. It'll be on Sunday at 5 to 7 because it is a dinner. And for those who haven't taken part in it before, it's a meal. And each item of the meal has something to do with the Exodus story. There's a little list, but it's totally fine if you don't have any of those foods and you somehow only have cereal. That's also totally fine. You can still take part. And I'll put the Zoom link in there, but everyone's welcome to join. It's really, really fun. I promise. Oh, and I think our participant is here. I'm very excited. So I'm going to invite him in. Yes, so we have that. And then finally, the following Tuesday, March 30th from 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time will be our monthly interfaith meditation. As always, it will be led by our Sikhi instructor, Sukhvinder Kaur Vinay, and she'll use a different meditation style. Usually it's something from the Sikh tradition, but not always. And that will help us go deeper into our connection with the divine. So everyone's welcome to join that. The link's on our website, or I'm happy to send it to you. And I just want to say hello to Sam. Thank you so much for joining us today. Great to see you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry for being late. My time zone calculator messed up and said that I would have to join an hour later. So yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. No, and that makes sense. We just had daylight savings time, which is a confusing thing. We do in North America where we switch the time. So that makes sense.
Yes, we change 2 days later on the 22nd. So.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, no worries. Well, don't worry. We'll do the first part of the service and then I'll ask you later because we'd love to hear from you then. So thank you so much for being with us. And for folks who weren't here for that part, he's actually dialing in from Hungary. So we're very lucky to have him today. Thank you so much. So yeah, I think that's our announcements for this time. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to share about? Okay, thank you. Let's just come into silence for a moment. We'll do our opening prayer. This is from Kane Tomo Yoshidi. Divinity is that which was there before the appearance of heaven and earth, and which gives form to them. That which surpasses the yin and the yang, yet has the quality of them. This divinity is thus the absolute existence, governing the entire universe of heaven and earth. Yet at the same time, it dwells within all things, where it is called spirit. Omnipresent within human beings, it is called mind. In other words, human mind communes with the divinity, which is ruler of heaven and earth. Mind and divinity are one and the same. Divinity is the root origin of heaven and earth, the spiritual nature of all things, and the source of human destiny. Itself without form, it is divinity, which nurtures things with form. And from Moritaki Arakita. That mind which gives life to all the people in the world, such is the very mind that nourishes me. And now, friends, if you'd like to unmute yourselves, we can do a passing of the peace. This is where we all say something like, peace be with you as well. Salam alaikum wa alaikum assalam. Peace, everyone. It's wonderful seeing you today.
And peace to you as well.
Peace be with you.
Yes.
And peace be with you.
Everyone.
Peace be with you. Be
Peace,
comforted.
everyone.
Peace. Peace all.
Peace to everyone. Good to see you.
Peace be with you.
Peace to you all.
Thank you so much. When you're ready, Bruce and Cheryl.
This song is a good example of how pervasive Shintoism is in Japan. It's a Christian text, but with a particularly Shinto expression, suitable for spring. Hitotsubu no mugi wa ochikeri chi no ue ni mata itsu haru wa chitsu
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And now if you'll join me in our joint affirmation. We come together in peace. We sing together in joy and with love. We worship together in one house, a house with names beyond number. Our paths are many, our beliefs are as leaves, and the tree that we cleave to is nourished by the light of compassion, justice, and mutual respect. May our lives, our beliefs, and our actions help to bring about the world of love we all seek, and let it begin here. Thank you. This is a time when we usually pray in our own homes and in our own ways for something going on in the world, something very dear to our hearts. As always, there are many things we could pray for. I know I've been very disturbed this last week about the attack in Atlanta against the Asian American women. I believe 8 Asian American women, or 6 were killed and 2 others were killed that week as well in a hate crime and something that's motivated by both misogyny and racism. So if you would like, I think it'd be good for us to pray for victims of hate crimes and also any marginalized communities who are feeling unsafe and who've experienced oppression and violence in the past. Let's take a few moments now to pray. Thank you very much. Now, as I always say, now is when I would usually pass around a basket, but instead I'll just put our donation page in the chat if anyone would like to donate towards this. It's a wonderful community. Many of you do, and it's amazing, and we are so, so grateful. So thank you for helping keep this going. And I would be remiss, Stephen, if I did not next mention Doctors Without Borders. That's another excellent organization that does so much important work around the world. So if you do have some extra money, it'd be a wonderful one to donate towards. And then are there any other causes or organizations that also could use some help at this time? Please feel free to tell us now or put them in the chat.
In light of the unfortunate hate crimes happening this week, there have been a lot of websites compiling donation websites to help Asian communities and Asian people. And so I would like to paste in a link to a Google document, and it contains a lot of links to donate and to educate yourselves about these matters. It has everything, as far as I know. It even has volunteer work, if I remember correctly.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. That's wonderful.
No problem.
I'm also going to post the GoFundMe that our former neighbors, Bree and Julia Price, set up to raise funds to cover them until, you know, the insurance money comes in. I'll post that in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, friends, for your consideration and generosity. Now, when you're ready, Bruce and Cheryl.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Great, thank you so much. So I think most of you were around earlier when I explained that our main talk today is going to be from Reverend Olivia Bernkastel. She is from Toronto originally, but she moved back to Japan and became a Shinto priestess. So, and the reason that her message is not, she's not with us in person, one is there's a big time change, of course. But also she was actually doing the ceremonies in the temple today. So it would have conflicted and she was quite exhausted. But instead she recorded her message ahead of time. So I'm going to play that now. And then afterwards, we're going to hear from Sam, who is going to talk a little bit about what it's like actually practicing now in a day-to-day way. And then after the service, we can ask Sam some questions about this so it can be more interactive. So, okay, let me just get it up.
Hi everyone, my name is Olivia Bernkastel. Nice to meet you.
Yes.
I'm a Shinto priestess of the Konko faith, and today I was asked to answer a few questions about Shinto, so I'll do my best to answer, even though I'm not great on video. So please forgive me for strange explanations or anything like that. So basically, first I was asked, what is Shinto and where did it originate from? And this is a very complicated question, but I'll try to answer. So where did it originate, or when did it originate? Of course, it originated in Japan. Shinto and Japan and Japanese culture are so intertwined, and you cannot divorce one from the other. They're perfectly connected. When did it begin? This is hotly debated by many, depending on how you define Shinto and how you would explain it or understand it, but in my research and my viewpoint, I believe it began in the Kofun era, actually, so around 250 CE. Of course, the Shinto in the Kofun period, I believe, plus as it went through thousands of years of evolution and changes, the Shinto in ancient times and the Shinto now is very, very different. So that's why I say it depends on who you ask and how you define it. But this is what I feel like. For example, when people began to really start to understand worship of Kami-sama and defining face of Kami-sama and so on, this is when I believe it began. What else to answer? So what are our core tenets of Shinto? I guess you could say, well, I would say that Shinto isn't really a religion in the sense that it has a dogma and like core tenets to follow or theology to follow. It's really more a way of living and how you practice and embody that living in your daily life. So what kind of ways are we living or trying to embody in Shinto, and what does Shinto or way of the Kami teach? So it's very hard to define, but I would define it in a few ways. First, I would say magokoro, or sincere heart, is very, very important. Secondly, I would say that gratitude is very important as well, appreciation for all things around us. After that, I would say that these two cores, like having a sincere heart and then appreciation, a genuine appreciation to everything around us, it leads into the other cores of Shinto, which is, for example, honoring those who have gone before us, seeing the life and spirit and everything, which is we know as mitama, and honoring that mitama-sama as well. So I want to explain a little bit about Kami-sama and mitama before I get into this, because it's complicated. So basically, when you read about Shinto online or anywhere else, you often hear that we worship Kami-sama. And Kami-sama is often translated as like God or deity or some kind of higher power, which it is in a sense. It's very similar. But I wouldn't translate or say that Kami-sama, the concept of Kami-sama, is the exact same as deity. So the idea of a deity would be fitting into Kami-sama, which is why there's no separate word for deity in Japanese. However, the worldview is completely different. So how I would explain it is that in Shinto, we see that everything that is alive, whether it's animate or inanimate, has the potential to have a mitama, which is something we might say is a soul or like a life essence. And this mitama is inherently a divine and sacred essence. So it is something that can naturally invoke a sense of awe and wonder and mystery in us. But in fact, that the way I'm speaking on, the way I'm alive now, means that I have a mitama and you have a mitama, and all of people have mitama because we are alive. And the mitama is inhabiting this body. And when we pass, that mitama leaves the body and it still exists. So the mitama is eternal, even though whatever it is inhabiting is not always eternal. So that's kind of the idea. And what Kami-sama is when that mitama can reveal its inherently sacred essence, its inherently powerful, awe-invoking essence. So I would say that, for example, when you see like a tree that invokes a really deep sense of like, wow, like it's powerful, something special about it, that tree is a Kami-sama because its mitama is invoking that sense in you. And it's not something quantifiable. It's not like, oh, that tree is so big, it's so pretty. It's not like that. It's just something that comes in you, like comes out of you actually, like it's just, you feel it. It's hard to describe, but I'm trying to condense it for the video. I don't know if this is a good explanation. Yeah, so in Shinto, we try to have a sincere heart, gratitude, appreciation for all around us, respecting and honoring those who have gone before us. And of course, those who have gone before us are also considered Kami-sama because they have mitama-sama. And that ties into the larger practice of respecting and worshiping Kami-sama. That is also a core part of Shinto. We want to pay respects and appreciation to all around us, because without everything around us supporting us, just like even in a mundane sense, we rely on the sun, we rely on the air, we rely on the food that sustains our lives. We rely on so much, even our beds, chopsticks, cups, everything. We want to acknowledge that and appreciate it. So that also manifests in worship of Kami-sama. So, for example, of course, the sun, the rain, the oceans, everything. So that is basically how Shinto as like a way of life has developed. Now, if you ask me about theology, theology is very complicated. It depends on the faith in Shinto, the faiths that originated in the practice. So I won't get into it too much. But basically, our basic theology, I would say, is that we do believe in the mitama and respecting of it. So I was also asked, what are my duties as a Shinto priestess? And I would say that the primary duties I have is to first and foremost serve Kami-sama. And in serving Kami-sama, I also am to help others and support other people as well. In this main duty, I perform ceremonies and rituals to give respects to Kami-sama and appreciation to Kami-sama, especially on behalf of everyone in the community as well. In addition to this, I try to support everyone in the community and connect them towards Kami-sama so that they know that they can rely on Kami-sama for anything that they need. In addition to this, I do things like cleaning and maintaining around the shrine, so that's also part of my responsibilities. So speaking of responsibilities and duties and doing rituals, today is the Grand Mitama ceremony for the spring equinox. And in Konko faith especially, we honor the Mitama no Kami-sama and the ancestors and those who have gone before us who were once living people, especially on the spring equinox and the autumn equinox. So what this entails today is basically a ritual to present offerings of appreciation for the blessings that sustain our lives, to express our gratitude and appreciation in the form of prayers and words as well. Lastly, I was asked, how can Shinto be or get along with the interfaith community? And I believe the answer to this is that it can get along very well. You see, Shinto is more like a way of living and a practice we embody in our day-to-day life than a set of strict theological beliefs or strict rituals we must follow. So because it is so broad and open, there's a lot of room for other beliefs and other deities and things like that to be understood in a Shinto viewpoint. There's not really a lot of conflict that can happen on the Shinto side, at least. We know this historically as well. When Buddhism arrived to Japan, it incorporated very smoothly in the country because Shinto is more a way of living that we practice, and while there is theology, it is not strict. And it can also be, for example, like they could form their own personal theologies and how does Buddhism fit into the understanding we know of Mitama and Kami-sama. So it can incorporate itself very smoothly and openly. So I believe as well, Shinto has this ability for many other religions as well, which is why it can work along well in the interfaith community. In addition, I feel that Shinto places an emphasis on our personal actions and personal development. So even as a whole, globally, I believe it can help connect us and keep harmony between us, between all of us, in the sense that Shinto values these core things like sincere heart, appreciation, supporting everything and everyone around us. So I believe in this sense as well, we can get along well, interfaith and also global-wise, cross-culture. I feel Shinto is very open and flexible in that manner. Even though it is very tied to Japanese culture and you cannot split Japanese culture and Shinto, I believe that it is also very broad and can also get along with other faiths and other cultures very easily because of this broad nature. So I hope these answers were all right. My head is a little bit scattered because it's just before the ceremony, but I did want to try to answer the best way I could. And I hope that these were satisfactory. If you do have more questions, and I'm also explaining better in writing when I have time to think and or try to express my mind more, you can also email me at livingwithkami@gmail.com. So if you have any questions or want to learn more, and I hope I could explain well this time, please ask me anytime. And I can also direct you to more detailed resources and other connections and my seniors who can help explain more and more detailed and in a better manner. So I hope that at least I could try to do my best today. So I hope you all have a great day and stay safe and healthy. And yes, thank you very much. I'm very appreciative that I've been able to speak today. And I'm very humbled. Thank you very much. And I'll see you someday soon or next time. If there is a next time, it would be nice. Thank you so much. Okay. Bye.
There we go. I hope everyone was able to hear that. Oh, sorry, it wasn't easy for me to check the chat during that. So thank you. Perfect. So yes, so we got that from Reverend Olivia, which is wonderful. And then we're so blessed to have Sam here with us today. So Sam, would you like to share a little bit about what it's like for you practicing and your own path to Shinto?
Yes, absolutely. Since it is Shunbun no Hi today, I thought I would try to start this topic with the concept of death, if that makes sense, since this Shunbun no Hi and Haru no Higan are both about death, technically, about honoring our dead loved ones and remembering them. And the reason for that actually is that this week, Haru no Higan is actually a longer period of time. It's a week, I believe, and it's actually considered the time when the dead cross the Sanzu River, which leads them to the Yama, and then they pass to their next lives. This is a Buddhist concept, actually. I will try to talk with a Shinto perspective, but I believe this is important. And Shunbun no Hi is the day specifically when it's the easiest to pass through River Sanzu, and this is why this day is special. And from a Shinto perspective, it's actually kind of connected. These Buddhist concepts are kind of connected to Shinto. The Sanzu River could be the same thing as Yomotsu no Kuni, which is a place of transition. People tend to translate that as an underworld of sorts, but Yomotsu no Kuni is a place where the dead go to be prepared for their next phase of existence. As Olivia explained, when people die, their mitama is what remains of them, and their mitama join the other kamisama. And this concept comes from a story from the Kojiki Order Nihon Shoki, which could be considered sacred texts, but it's not necessary to know them in order to practice Shinto. This contains stories of kamisama. The most known kamisama stories are contained in these books. They are very similar, in fact, just different retellings of the same stories. The concept of death was born when Izanami Okami died. She's Okami of both creation and death. And when she died, that's created the concept of death, and so she became the ruler of Yomotsu no Kuni. And her job is to prepare dead people to enter their mitama phase of existence, so to speak. And what's interesting about this, what I always think of when it comes to death, is how society views death. Like, we kind of don't talk about it at all, and I think it's a problem, because it's either viewed as something that can be easily brushed off, or something that's permanent and terrible and only takes and not gives and doesn't give back. But the story of Izanami Okami actually tells that when she died, a lot of things were born from her body. While she was alive, she gave birth to the Japanese islands, and with her death, she gave birth to everything else pretty much, from the concept of earth to trees to rivers to everything pretty much. And that's the thing with death, that when someone dies, their body will be housing creatures, they will feed creatures of any kind. So it's, I don't consider it something, well, it's sad, but I don't consider it anymore. I don't consider it something terrible anymore. I used to, because I was really anxious about death and such, but I no longer do. And that's kind of the first lesson that Izanami Okami told me. She's actually one of my Ujigami, kami I worship. And this is what she taught me. As someone who has no Japanese relatives and never ever went to Japan, practicing Shinto isn't. I don't practice Shinto in the traditional way, so to speak. There is countless ways to practice Shinto actually, but the traditional way would be being born in a clan or village, and said clan or village has a patron kami and ujigami, and people would worship them. But as someone who doesn't have that, what I did was let the kami come to me, so to speak. And in the meanwhile, I was learning about Japanese culture and kami-sama, of course. And this is how well, it has to be felt. But essentially what I did was listen to signs, listen to myself, because kami-sama are all around us and inside us. And that's what I did. I listened very attentively, and I got the signs that it was her, and she was the first kami I prayed to, and that also caused me a little hardships, because traditionally, when in Japan someone has no time to go to shrine, because traditionally you would go to a shrine every day and pray there, but many people can do that. So they have what is called a kamidana, which is a home altar essentially, that contains an ofuda. Ofuda are essences of kami-sama that you can pray to, and so you essentially invite them into your house and pray to them that way. I can't do that, unfortunately. I don't have the space for that, because it requires a lot of attention to detail. It isn't the same whether you place it on the western or the eastern side of the house, or which room it's placed in. So what I do, and it's also something a lot of people do, is pray towards the sun, or if there is no sun, pray towards a place where there's nature. My type of Shinto worship is connected to nature, because I grew up in a town, and right now I'm in a city. I'm a university student, and spend a lot of time here in the city, and so what I do is go into nature and listen pretty much. I listen like one time. There's a field near my hometown, and I go there very often. And the more I went there, the more I felt Kami-sama's presence, and started noticing a lot of things I haven't before. Like when I went there and the snow was melting, I noticed as if their hearts were beating together with mine. For example, Shinto, as Olivia described, is something that really depends on the worshipper themselves. Like it's difficult to describe the sensations and feelings, but usually when you worship and when you do something, if it feels right, it's probably right, and if it feels wrong, it's probably wrong. The way prayer works, it's universal to clap twice, bow twice, and then pray. And when you're finished, you clap once and then bow once. But it can change depending on the specific sect. There's a lot of types of Shinto. I don't strictly consider myself strictly a worshipper of any sect, because all of my kami-sama, all of my uji-kami are from different, sects, I suppose. And pretty much what I do is, listen. I couldn't describe it any better than that. A huge part of Shinto for me is listening and learning a lot. Since it's so connected to Japanese culture, what I do is, I started learning Japanese 2 semesters ago, and I started learning how to use chopsticks, for example. And
thank you so much. I just want to be mindful of time because I know some folks.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
this was wonderful. This was great. So I think we'll do. I'll just remove spotlight. No, it's great because I think some folks might have some questions at the end. But if people do need to leave, I don't want anyone to not be able to leave if they have to. So thank you so much, Sam. That was wonderful. And Bruce and Cheryl, if you'd like to do our closing song, and then we'll do our final prayer. And then if folks want to stay after and talk to Sam more, I think that'd be wonderful. Thank you very much.
This is one of the classic forms of Shinto daily prayer with a very simple melody. Hifumi yui munaya kodomo jirurane shirikyu yuitsu wanu sodakumeka uoe nisarihete no masu aseimoreke Hifumi yoi munaya kodomo jirurane shiriyu yuitsu wanu sodakumeka uoe nisarihete no masu aseimoreke Hifumi yoi munaya kodomo
chirurane shikiru yuitsuwaru sotakumeka uoe nisarihete no masuaseye
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And friends, if we go in love and peace, remembering the soul of all things around us, our connection to each other and to everything, especially to nature, and just take that with us into the spring. Happy spring, friends. Thank you.